right, so I scouted this big tree out just last week. It's a very large piñon. It's gonna make for a nice load of wood. It'll be a little tricky to cut down because it's extremely tall and it'll have a lot of logs to buck in it, but it'll be less cuts to make and some heavy carrying, but we're gonna get it on. All right, so got all my systems, well, fluids I should say, out and ready to go. Before I start my day, I always try to gas up and oil up my chainsaw, make sure that it's got a tight chain on it and that it's ready to run and operate safely. And so yeah, just part of the game. All right, beautiful morning to be out cutting, making some money, and gonna go ahead and tackle this big guy right behind me. Hopefully it'll be kind of quick and clean to get this tree cut up and pulled out of here, but just gonna go ahead and document the process and bring you along with me. So here we go. All right, so you can see I've got this big piñon tree down and felled. I'm gonna go ahead and strip up the branches and knock off all the slash and overburden and get it down to its skeleton. Now is where the real work begins. And actually it's when I lift and lower the wood into the pickup. Excuse me. But anyhow, this is how it's done. The fun part is over. Let the games begin. All right, so you can see we're getting there. The stripping of the tree is kind of a slower process, but if you use the baseball bat to clear the tree down to its skeleton, it really does improve the speed. I've made mention of this in a previous video, but gonna go ahead and keep beating on this tree for a while, and I'll catch up with you when I start to cut it up. All right, so that's an example of me going ahead and just felling off the branches that are extended out from the main beam. Again, I like to do that because it prevents me from having to bend over and cut branches off the ground, which is hard on the equipment, hard on my back, and to me just burns up more energy and takes more time. In certain situations though, I might have to cut the branches off a tree and drag them up closer to my vehicle. In that regard, sometimes I just have to do it. But I'm kind of blessed today to be able to pull up to a big truck, or pull my pickup up next to a big tree like this and to be able to harvest it, load it, and get out of here quick and efficiently. That's an ideal wood cut. Okay, so after probably just about 45 minutes of work, I've got this big piñon tree felled over. I've got the branches stripped down and cut up, and all that remains is a few supportive branches towards the north end of the tree. And now is the time I need to be really careful as I buck the logs out from the main beam. If you're doing this, I want to encourage you to be thinking about the branches that are supporting the log if it is elevated off the ground. This is where it can get really dangerous. And aside from felling the tree over, cutting it down, this portion of cutting the tree up is also dangerous. Essentially because if you're not paying attention, the heaviest part of the tree could fall or roll over on you while you're operating your chainsaw. So you really got to be mindful of making your cuts here and being aware of the branches that are, again, supporting the main beam. So be careful, be mindful, and be aware as you get to this portion of cutting the tree down. So I've been getting after it this morning, been out here for actually just about an hour and a half. I've got this big piñon tree all cut up, And right over here, I found a nice little reward for my hard work. Each time I come out and cut, I like to cut up a little bit of cedar. I don't sell cedar for profit, but I do cut myself up some dead cedar to burn. It is a hardwood that burns really hot. It's easy to split and it ignites very easily. There are some downfalls to it. It does burn up very quick and it does send off embers from your fireplace or up your chimney and out of the chimney. So it can cause fires. You got to be a little bit careful and mindful of burning cedar. But some of the cutters out here in New Mexico can be very wasteful. A lot of them come in and find trees. They down the tree, fell it, buck out the main beam, and don't take any of the slash or trim up any of the branches. So I was lucky enough to find a cedar tree that had a whole lot of good salvageable branches that were just the perfect shape for my own wood stove. So I went ahead and cut up a little bit of it to take home, as I usually do. But this is a really nice load today because it's very easy to access. It's a large load, so there's less cuts involved, which doesn't wear out my equipment. And I was able to get the tree downed and chopped up pretty quick. So gonna go up the road here and see if I can find a little bit more cedar, as it looks like there's a few piles of slash that I might be able to salvage some of the branches out of. But one thing to keep in mind is to always follow the rules, especially that are mandated by your state, and I try to do that to the best of my ability, just to keep things legal, to keep things fair, and to do the right thing. All right, so winding my day up, just been out here about 3 hours. Not a bad load of wood. Got two different types of wood in here. I have some piñon pine and also some cedar. I went ahead, like I said, and took some cedar just for my own personal use because it was available and easy to harvest and take. But I would say 3/4 of this load is piñon that I will sell. Personally, I like to blend the two woods because it kind of helps to balance the two out. The cedar burns real hot and ignites real easy, and that's nice to benefit the piñon, which doesn't do those two things. But the piñon does burn a little slower, and I like the piñon blended with a little bit of cedar. It makes for a nice load. But yeah, gonna wind my day down and just slowly creep out of the hills here. And so that's it. As you can see, I've went ahead and made a pretty barren spot where that big piñon pine tree was that I felled earlier in the video. It is now gone. So gonna go ahead, take my rake and spread out a little more of this slash just for a minute or two before I go, just to respect the environment and follow the rules set forth by the Bureau of Land Management, because we don't want to get in trouble with our local enforcement officers. So thanks for joining me. This is just another episode of the Underground Safari with your host, Zach, and I am, again, Zach of all trades. Thanks for joining me. Please like and subscribe.